Good evening. Anybody hear me okay? Is this all right? Hello. Good evening. Hi, how are you? Thank you, everyone, again, for coming out to this town hall meeting. This is an information session related to Celebration Island Village. See some familiar faces in the crowd. Hopefully, there are also friendly faces in the crowd. And like I said, I want to thank you on behalf of my colleagues up here. Again, thank you very much for having us here. We wanted to come out and start engaging with the residents of Celebration so that we can do a lot of things with you before we get too far down the road. We don't want to go too far down the road without having you come along with us for the ride. So I wanted to give a quick introduction. My name is Bennett Ruedis. I'm with a company called Mattamy Homes. And over here to my left, I'll give it up to Katie for her introduction.
Yeah, I'm not capable of using a microphone. I'm Katie Suggs. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Mattamy Homes.
And Keith Trace, General Manager for Mattamy Homes in Orlando.
Great, great. So we're going to go through probably, hopefully, depending, this we tried to set this up. We want to interact with you as much as we can. So through each section that we have up here, we're going to allow a couple of questions, maybe 2 or 3 or so, related to the topic that we just talked about. And then we've got more information that we're going to be talking about later on in the presentation. Then also at the end, we'll open the floor up for more questions. Hopefully, we wrap up with everybody with all the questions around 7 o'clock or so, if that's okay with everyone. Hopefully sooner than that. I know, this is dinner time and all that. But this also isn't the end-all be-all of our town halls with you. We want to engage with you frequently. We don't know yet how frequently that is. We're not going to. I don't think we're coming back next week to come visit with you. But certainly, as we have significant milestones and progress points within our development and our planning, we definitely want to engage with you as a group. To see, just to show you where we're going and collect more information from you about, about the direction. Is this a good direction? Is this not? Are we completely coming out of left field and all that? So, about 30 to 40 minutes or so, questions afterwards. Hopefully we're out of here by 7 o'clock or sooner. But that depends on how well we present, how well we're asking your questions. And all that good stuff. Fair enough for everyone? Yeah. Okay, so Katie, can you take it away?
Sure. Okay, so Bennett's kind of on the land side. I'm on the fun, pretty stuff. What we're going to walk through today is a lot of generalization about what Mattamy does, and some of it's specific to Celebration and some of it's not. And I'm saying that as a caveat when we move into product and things like that. When you see a house, don't fall in love with that specific house because our product is not yet developed for Celebration. So I'm going to put that caveat out there. And as Bennett said, feel free to ask questions. Hopefully I have the answers. If not, we'll get them to you. And this is being recorded, so if your friends aren't here, they can still enjoy us. Okay, a little bit about Mattamy Homes, and somebody stole my thunder already earlier, but we started in 1978. We have 75,000 homes. We call it Making Memories. 75,000 homes for families across the North America. Our founder is Peter Gilgan. And he had somewhat of a vision, and throughout this presentation you're going to hear a lot about vision, about community, about togetherness. That's very much what Mattamy Homes is about. The name Mattamy, a little bit unusual. Some of you heard this story earlier. The name is actually from his 2 eldest children, 2 of 8, Matt and Amy. So if you can't quite remember what the name of that company is, it's Matt and Amy. So we're Mattamy Homes. And our visionary, Peter, had this following to what's called New Urbanism. It's a couple of things. It relates to the level of consciousness of community. So it's not just building homes, it's building communities, it's having a positive impact on communities. It speaks to individual character. So you'll see that throughout the communities that Mattamy builds, it's individual character in terms of architectural design, individual character in terms of how we place spaces. Very important to us to have green spaces. We're about friendlier communities. So rather than how many homes can we squeeze into this small little spot, we want to know how many homes can we get there that people can actually comfortably live and enjoy their neighbors. Think more about people than cars and transit. I know you guys are excited about our bridge, but it's more about the people that go into the community than how many cars we can get through there. We operate in 7 markets in the United States, and we're the largest private home builder in North America. So I'm sure that a lot of you have heard of the Lennars and the Pulte's and all of those people, and you're like, oh, who's these Mattamy people? We started in Canada, and like I said, we're in 7 markets throughout the United States now, but we are the largest private home builder versus the public. This is a representation of some of what we think is the uniqueness of Mattamy. All the same communities under Mattamy, but they all look very distinctly different. There are 3 core values that Mattamy operates under. The first is commitment. We will ensure excellence is a standard for everything that we do. Teamwork. We will respect and support each other in doing what's right. Community. We'll have a positive impact in all of our communities. We're going to think long-term about our communities. We're not, again, just going to build some houses. So the difference you'll see with our communities, and I encourage you to take a ride out through any of them. We have several throughout this area, is the location of amenities. One of the things that we're very proud of is you have the opportunity to, I'm going to tell you some business secrets, okay? You guys can't leave this room. You have an opportunity to gain a lot of lot premiums on home sites that back up to things that are highly attractive, lakes, fountains, things like that. So if you have a community of 100 homes and you have 20 of these very valuable home sites, 20 people get to enjoy that amenity, right? I did the math there. If we don't put those homes around that lakefront, how many people get to enjoy it? 100. So when we think about our communities, we think about them in terms of how can the community most enjoy them, all enjoy them. Not to say they're not going to have some really nice lots with lot premiums. We do something called corner elevations. I'll show you a picture of it in a minute. I'm sure you've all been into a community, you turn down the road and you're met with this big stucco side of a house with windows plastered into it, right? To us, it's important that when you come into a community and and that home sits on a corner, that it's as pretty on the side as it is on the front. So we don't want to see a bunch of stucco. We want to see some nice wraparound porches. We want to see a lot of architectural detail. And individual character. I spoke to this earlier, and I'll get more into it in a minute. Our homes are designed for each community, which is why I can't come in here and tell you, oh, go look at the models that we have over at Oxford Chase. We're going to build those same houses over here. We don't do that. We spend a lot of time, and I'm going to get into it in a second, we spend a lot of time and thought on each home, so there's the individual characteristics. And again, we love the friendly spaces, green spaces. We want people to walk instead of drive. We want people to stop and say hello. Next slide. Another difference between Mattamy, I'm not going to say it's better or worse. I think it's a little bit better, like the way we do it. But we're a builder and a developer. Some builders buy finished lots from another company that specializes in developing. We are both things, so we control the layout, within some reason, the layout of the community. We, from start to finish, will decide what that community will look like. And then we also go in and build the homes as well. This is just a kind of an overview of where we are in the greater Orlando area. Some of these are still actively selling. Some of them are on the tail end of it. Some are coming soon. In terms of how big we are in this market, again, I know it's hard when you haven't heard the name before. We control 10,000 lots currently in this market. We concentrate a little bit differently on our communities as well. We do master plan communities. Some of you are probably familiar with that term. I see a lot of our real estate professionals in the audience. We do long term. So some builders like to come in and do 60 lots at a time, in and out. We like to make a pretty big commitment each time we get into a community. Again, we put a lot of thought and money into the front side of it, so we want to make sure that our vision long-term comes through. Our average community size is about 900 lots, and the largest we have is going to be over 4,000 lots, and the smallest we have is bringing down our average is a 100-home infill project that we found highly desirable. Okay, the difference in terms of our community features, and like I said before, sometimes I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm very passionate about how we build our communities. The master plan communities, we create an identity for it. We have a long-term investment. I went through these stats already, so we can move on to the next. This is just a visualization of some of the communities that we're in all and around North America. You can go to the next slide. And this is another representation of, you'll notice there's a very distinct difference in the streetscape. So still all Mattamy Homes, but if you put them side by side, I don't know that anybody would say that's a Coke product or a Pepsi product. Our architectural difference. We have a product philosophy. Sorry about that. We like to create entrance, and we like a variation in the streetscapes. We do that through multiple lot sizes. That gives a couple of things. It gives variation to streetscape. It also gives opportunity to people who either want a lot of land or don't want a lot of land. We have variations in our garage setbacks. So when you go down the road, you're not going to see garage, 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 garage. And then we also have very distinct elevations. So you can go to the next slide. So within each floor plan that we offer, we're going to have different elevations to go with it. That's what the outside of the house looks like. And we'll have three kind of different themings to those elevations so that we can provide something quite unique, even if you really enjoy the same floor plan.
If I cut in here
for
a minute here, Katie. So far, she's doing a great job, and what I want to point out here is that this is just a representation of some of the product that we, as Mattamy Homes, puts out there. This is not necessarily a representation of what is to come here at Celebration. We haven't thought that far out yet. We are thinking about it, and rest assured that that thought process will become penciled, put on paper, presented to Celebration Company and many other folks, I'm sure, as well, for final approval before we start actually producing those homes. So just want to make sure that everyone understood that here. Okay, we have a thing for front porches. I think you guys do too. We like the idea of both front porch living and backyard living. You know, sometimes there's some, the kids want to play in the backyard. Sometimes you want to say hi to your neighbors. So we're big fans of front porches, and not just front porches that are there for the sake of being a front porch, but are deep enough to actually have a sweet tea in the afternoon on. Go ahead, next slide's good. These are some representations. You'll see there is a smaller front porch in that upper right-hand side. There are some people that, I don't really need a front porch. I'm just fine with this. But then we also have the wraparounds and the super deeps as well. Corner lots. So this is just a representation where I was talking earlier about. So rather than, rather than this just being the side of a house, we have a double porch that goes across the side. Rather than this just being plain stucco, we have the depth, the change in direction, and so on and so forth. So you can get where I'm going with that. Go ahead. Different varieties, rear load, rear lane. We have front facing on different size lots. Good. And then I'm going to give you a little sneak behind the curtain here, how we do what we do at Mattamy. We have a process that's called BCTM, Bringing Communities to Market. And we thought it was important for us to kind of share with you kind of our back office stuff so that you understand who we are, where we're coming from, and where we're going. It's a process. It's a big process. And the first step is to create visioning. So when we talk about vision, we talk about
who do we want this community to be? And at the end of the day, y'all are who the community is. So what do we want that to look like? We do a lot of thoughtful land planning. I'll give these guys here a lot of props for that. We pay attention to the amenity design, and we have an ongoing appreciation of the community and for its future use. So what that means is we all know how we're living today, but what do we expect in 20 years from now? An example of this would be when we work with utility companies. Sometimes we can make solar work, sometimes we can't, but sometimes there's opportunities where we can reserve space for that for the future. So it's thinking about, again, not today, but long term, what do these communities look like? This is just an overview of one of our communities right here in Central Florida. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not. This is just north of Sarasota. And it is, you can see the sales center aligned with the amenity center, so people know long-term what they're getting. Okay, back to the BCTM process, bringing communities to market. We understand it's not a linear process. There's a lot of things that are going on at one time. And we have to kind of keep all those balls in the air, one of which is understanding the site. I mean, what's the dirt we're working with? What can we do with it? The phasing and the timing of the community, so how we build out the community in consideration to the neighbors. Sales centers and models, how we want the presentation to look. We define our neighborhoods. We create that community identity. We look at our park distribution. Is it fair and relative to everybody within the community? Sewer and water, you got to take care of the logistic stuff too. Zoning, the infrastructure of the community, and then the right-of-way standards that are required by the city. Some of you may have participated in this. When I talk about who we want our communities to be, a big part of our focus is you. It's a focus group. We conduct many focus groups prior to bringing communities to market. Some of you may have participated. We've done three for celebration already. We'll continue to do those. And from that comes these word clouds. And these are the things that over and over and over again we hear. And that's how we define the community. That's how we build forward. Two of the groups were homeowners. One of the groups was real estate professionals. So everybody knows what the bubble is, right? Y'all live in here. Came over and over and over again. Everybody loves the bubble. And so what we have to do from our side of it is how do we perpetuate the bubble, especially because we're a little bit farther away. Community was important. Neighbors were important. Families, a gathering place. A center, the gravity part of it came down to kind of more of an anchoring. But gravity, I think, was the term that we ended up using for that. And parking. So as much as I say we have to walk, we still have to park once in a while. Go ahead. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Bennett. Did anybody have any questions about kind of what I covered in terms of who Mattamy is, where we're going, what we're doing, focus groups, how we come to market? Yep, go. Here.
Oh, here. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's my new assistant.
I'm curious about whether you need permission or some sort of approval from the celebration company or Disney in general
yes.
about this.
Everything we do. Everything we do. Our presentation went through celebration. So yeah, and that's the great thing about this community. It's very, very, very well protected. It's, you know, sometimes a little extra work for us on our part, but there's not a thing that we do that isn't approved by both councils. Mm-hmm.
Do we have a time frame of this whole project from beginning to end?
Sure. So we have what we anticipate. So I'm going to put my little asterisk on there, my little legal disclaimer. We are under development. We anticipate to actually start pre-sales at the beginning of 2019. We anticipate having homeowners in their home at the beginning of 2020. So we'll call it, you know, going into springish of 2020.
And just to clarify, under development as in we're actively pursuing development approvals with the Celebration Company, with Osceola County, Reedy Creek, a whole bunch of people including putting some information in front of CROA and ECDD and CCDD, and I'll get into all of that here later. But yes, any questions specifically about Mattamy Homes before we get too far ahead of ourselves, because we're going to cover a lot of those questions that you had also. Anything more about Mattamy Homes? Right up here.
I can yell. What's an average build time start to finish once you start on somebody's home? When you go to contract, when you might be able to close?
6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months?
Yeah. I'm coming. I got short legs.
Celebration was designed under the architectural principles of New Urbanism. I was wondering if your group has worked in that concept before and how it would link up with the concepts of New Urbanism.
Great question. So all of us spend all our careers designing neighborhoods that look like, feel like, act like Celebration. Now we get to do it. So we're studying a lot of the same principles, Andres Duani, and a lot of the framework architects and land planners for the community. And we're looking at other aspects. Bennett will get into it as part of his presentation, but we're looking at all the other villages of Celebration to develop Island Village.
That is an excellent question. Would you mind if I segued into the next set here? Because that's exactly what we're about to talk about. Katie, could you help run the show here? So before we even put pen to paper, okay, and we have been looking at this thing probably since 2006. We've been not 2006, 2016. Right, and as you may know, everybody's been looking at this since 2006, right? But as you may know, last September, the papers had it, Orlando Business Journal and whatnot. We actually closed on the first phase of Island Village. So even before when we closed, we were already looking at what are we going to do here? What is it that Celebration has before we start going off on our own tangents and thinking of what this is. We wanted to do our homework and study Celebration first, as well as other communities that have since been mimicked and benchmarked against Celebration. We're doing benchmark tours around the country, with some of our consultants to see how did they mimic Celebration since Celebration, started back in 94. First homes closed around 96 or so. So how did they do it as well? But also really what's going on here. So the left click.
Sorry.
No, it kind of gets futzy there. There you go. Okay, so you heard a little bit about who we are, right? And that was very important for us to to let you know who we are, and simultaneously we want to do the same with you, okay? So, but it was important for us because we're the new kid on the block, right? It's a baby that's coming, right? Whether you're the big brother or the big sister or not. Little babies coming whether you want them or not, right? But having said that, we want to be welcomed to your community, and we want to earn that welcome with everything that we're doing. Not just today, we don't want this to be a sales pitch. I think we are trying to embody what is here at Celebration. So when we talked, or when Katie talked earlier about the Mattamy values of commitment. Yes, we're committed to excellence and that good stuff. Teamwork. We've got over probably plus or minus, we're at 100 people right now at our division, as well as local support with our U.S. corporation that is also headquartered here in town. Katie also said that we are out of Toronto as a whole company. But we like to work with people. We like to collaborate with our engineers, with our consultants, with the government agents, with focus groups and people, so that we understand that when we come to the market, it's what you expect, right? So when we got down into community, right? Positive impact to community. What is that? What does that mean to you guys, right? So one of the first things we saw, next slide, was the 5 cornerstones that is celebration, right? These were cornerstones that were developed a long, long time ago, before dirt was even turned here, by the think tank that put this community together, and we want to embody all of those tenets, those cornerstones, right? So I'm going to skip around a little bit here, but education, Celebration here has 2 schools, K through 8 and a high school. You all know this, right? The hospital for health as well. Technology, how do you use video, voice, data? How are you interacting with Comcast and Smart City? 2 of the big cornerstones here are the sense of place and the sense of community. We're new, right? We're just getting to know you, right? My first interaction with Celebration as a group was last Wednesday at the annual meeting, and I was very surprised and very excited to see so much activity, so much life here in Celebration. And this is a multi-generational community. Sometimes we see a lot of that in a different age group type of community, but this is a multi-generational community with all sorts of walks of life that are participating on the board, in committees, and all that. And we want to embody that as part of our process here with you as well. Next slide. So we're still studying, right? We're still looking. We're looking at, if you could see this slide here, it's not highlighted very well, but this is Celebration up here as it exists today. You got all your villages up here, the main village, Celebration Village, North Village. We're looking at Artisan Park, East Village, and everything else. And then all the way down here is Celebration Island Village, We are on the other side of World Drive. We're on the other side of the high school. So, we have quite a few opportunities that we want to look at there that we think we can, we could live up to. Part of it is how do we stay within the bubble, being almost really, it's really like 3 miles away from the village core, the front door of Island Village. How do we still maintain the Celebration cornerstones being so far away? So we're looking at Artisan Park, not just from an architectural standpoint. We're looking at it from a how did they develop land? How did they set up their HOA? Do we want to do it that way? Do we want to do it differently? We're looking at East Village. This is just stuff that right? These are just examples of all the things that we're looking at here at Celebration, and of course, Main Village or Celebration Village here. How do things work here in the Main Village? How does the downtown relate to a residential that's across the way there, and all that? So yes, we are looking at traditional neighborhood design is related to new urbanism. We noticed that there's a lot of great architecture here already. Classical, Victorian, Mediterranean. It's really cool stuff that we see, and it's classic, right? It's standing. I think, I don't know. I hope you guys think also that it's standing the test of time. The architectural diversity here. As well as, what we're noticing here is you've got condos, apartments, townhomes, all the way up to single-family homes, larger single-family homes, estate lots. You also have commercial, and of course other mixed uses like schools and churches that are intertwined with the community, which is what we love as a company. Oh, okay, so the point is, with that particular section there, is that we're studying Celebration so that we're not just coming in here with our own cockamamie ideas of what this development should be. We're studying Celebration so that we could not only just come in here and not necessarily duplicate or replicate exactly what you've done here, but take those lessons that you've learned and take those characteristics that are from this community and apply it to Island Village. And maybe this is a version 2.0, updates to floor plans and architectural and technology. I'm not sure when the last community was developed here on the boulevard, Spring Lake. Recent. Right, but we're all about trying to not necessarily modernize, but definitely refresh and definitely to a degree put a Mattamy spin on what we're doing here. But still, once we're long gone, once Mattamy is long gone, you're not going to remember who the builder was or the developer. You're going to remember that. We hope that it's Celebration Island Village. Any questions about that so far? One in the back. Oh, man. Okay.
I'm just curious about the focus groups. Who did you pick, or how did you pick the focus groups? And going forward, are you going to have more focus groups?
That's a great question.
I was going to say, I can answer that. I'll hang out back here with you guys for a minute. We do multiple focus groups, and it's kind of as needed. So when we run the focus groups, they come out of our corporate office, which happens to be in Millennia. We have an entire department that's dedicated just to consumer research. And so they actually pull by characteristic into the focus group. So what will happen probably going forward is those who have already purchased here in Celebration or Residence are the ones that would be invited back again next time. Not back again, not the same people, a new group. And then we use the real estate professionals, and we do that by a couple of different things. We do it by volume as it relates to the price point that we intend to be in, people who are super knowledgeable about the area and so forth. We have another one scheduled. Keith, do you remember the next one scheduled?
End of April.
End of April, yeah. So there'll be multiple times in the next year or so. Okay.
Yeah, so we did some targeted Facebook advertising as well to find that first group. And then we reached out to some of you guys have a lot of great groups in the community, the Celebrators and all the other groups, so we reached out to some of them to get participants.
Yeah. You can, if you have an interest, you can catch me after, or you can go online and join our interest list.
Yeah, you can join the interest list on the website too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
It may be too early to ask, but looking at the distance your island village is from the town centre, how do you intend to tie the development into Celebration Village?
It's a big question.
That's an excellent question. Would you mind if we defer the answer into the next couple of sections here? It'll hopefully it becomes clear, but it is quite the opportunity that we have in front of us here, trying to connect us from 3 miles away from Celebration from downtown.
This might come up, and you might be answering this in your next section. But, one of the nice things about what they did with Celebration was they concurrently developed the infrastructure along with the community, so that when the community was developed, you had your downtown, you had your community centers. You didn't wait and wait and wait and wait for years for those things to come along. Is that also your?
That is a great question, and it's one of the exciting things that we're going to talk about here in the next couple of sections. But I'm not trying to blow you off. A lot of these questions will be answered. If I don't answer those questions, or if we don't answer those questions as a group, please re-raise your hand again and say, hey, you guys forgot about me. We don't want to forget about you, and we apologize if we do. But yes, great question back there. One more.
I just have one more question here. You made reference to phase 1 development. How many more phases are coming? And are you going to be the primary developer for the rest of the phases?
That is a great question. Also, I could probably answer that quickly, or maybe I'll hand it out to Keith here.
So Mattamy is going to be the master developer for the entire community. We will be bringing in a multifamily partner. We don't specialize in multifamily. We want to make sure that someone builds it that actually specializes in it. So, but we will be the master developer for the whole community. Overall, the community will be 4 or 5 master phases. Overall entitlements are about 1,000 single-family homes, 300 apartments, and 30,000 square feet of non-residential, along with the elementary school and civic uses in the community. So overall about 4 phases, and it's about 4 large islands through the community.
What will the civic uses be? What do you think of that?
You know, park spaces, amenity centers, you know, we could put churches in if that makes sense, but, you know, that's further down the road. And then community gardens and dog parks and all the other fun.
Keith, did you want to tackle the next section, or you want me to keep rolling here?
Go for it.
All right.
Relinquish the PowerPoint.
Because you knew I was really bad at it.
Okay, so let's talk. Not necessarily chronologically, but it is kind of chronologically. Our next steps here with the development of Island Village is how do we get there, right? As it currently sits, if everyone recalls, the Celebration Boulevard dead ends at Celebration High School. Emerson's over to the right, high school over to the left. Go back to the one slide here. So, you know, like I mentioned earlier, and like it was mentioned by the gentleman back here, with this slide, this is a huge opportunity for us. We're studying this, we're looking at it, and there's only really one answer. You just got to build a road, right? We're 3.5 miles as a crow flies, right? From the very northern tip of Island Village to downtown here. So we have to get there first, right? And we're looking at that right now with our plans, with our planning, with our engineering as well. If you could flip to the next, please. So one of the things that we're working with the Celebration Company is what does Celebration Boulevard look like beyond World Drive, right? So if you look up in the top corner here, top left, that's what Celebration Boulevard looks like right now. It's got the big median in the middle, trees, palm trees out on the exterior on the side, 4-lane boulevard section with sidewalks on either side. It doesn't look like Celebration Avenue, right? And so as we start to approach Island Village, we don't want this, there's nothing wrong with this look, but it's not necessarily the look that we all think we want as we start to come home, right? You know, I want to see the white picket fences. You guys see the white picket fences coming here home, coming in from 192. We want to see that. We want to see more trees. We want to feel like, okay, we're arriving. This is where we want to be. So we're moving. As it relates to the existing Celebration Boulevard between World Drive and the high school, we're looking to replant and re-landscape a lot of that section so that we can get a little bit more median trees in there. Over time, they'll grow. You know, you put them in day one, you're going to be a little upset at us, but give it some time. It'll grow. And we want to carry that theme throughout the road to Island Village's front door. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of an overview here of the new road, right? So Celebration Boulevard down here on the left-hand bottom corner, you can see I-4, the high school over here to the left, and Emerson Apartments over here to the right. We've got about a mile, not quite, but about a mile worth of road that we have to build. And is Officer Jerry in the room here? No. Well, okay. So if you do that distance in under 100 seconds, he may be tagging you with a ticket, type of thing. But at 35 miles an hour, we figured it's about 100 some odd seconds to get from the high school to the front door. That's not to your home, to the front door of Island Village. And one of the not challenges, but one of the opportunities that we have in front of us is how do we get across the creek? How do we get across Reedy Creek? And we saw that as really a pretty cool opportunity for us. It's been alluded to over here behind me to the left a little bit, so the cat's been out of the bag. Also, I understand that some of you may have spotted a YouTube video. I don't know how it got out there, but someone spotted the YouTube video and it started to go crazy before we were able to take it down. But yeah, there was an animation of what that road might look like. It's an artistic rendition of the road. You could go ahead and flip. So again, right, before we go pen to paper, before we start turning dirt, before we start getting plans approved, we're studying celebration. What is it that is cool about celebration? What is it that's unique about celebration? And we're noticing the celebration green theme throughout, the 4-rail fence, the types of lamps, you know, even down to those details. We're looking at those things and how do we embody that into what we're doing here. Next slide, please. Also, there are some things of celebration that are unique, right? Downtown, the spires, the old Welcome Center, the old Town Hall, right? Those are all architecturally unique. You don't see those patterns per se repeated in a home or whatever throughout celebration. They're iconic in our minds, right? The hotel, iconic, right? So go ahead and flip. So we're taking what we see, we're taking what is unique about celebration, what is common throughout celebration. I don't like the slide anyway. Go ahead and flip to the next. This is a great slide here. And we started thinking, how do we cross the creek? How do we cross the creek? So this is where our thinking has been going. You know, there's some of the structures or whatnot that we're studying. They're not necessarily located or located around town or whatever. But types of bridges, how do we, what kind of bridges are we doing? What kind of features on those bridges are we going to do? And we came up with this. Go ahead and flip. This is the bridge as you approach from the high school towards night vision here. Bridge will include, a walking trail as well, as part of the whole system. You know, the road will include that walking system as well. You can hold here for just a moment. And then that's the, this is again an artistic rendition of what we're working on right now. We just got to cross the creek, right? We think this is a great opportunity to add to the allure of celebration and add to the storyline of celebration. We're working through the process right now with the Celebration Company, as well as I think we are meeting with the CCDD coming up here soon. I think it's the 20th, as well as the ECDD on the 4th of April. Related to this particular set of plans, but there you have it. You know, we're trying to move this forward. You know, hopefully, the one thing that we don't know yet is so that video, that animation got out a while ago. We didn't really hear a reaction one way or the other, from anybody about that bridge. So right now, I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments. Yes, yeah.
It shows like in the rendering a 2-lane bridge.
2-lane.
Do we think that's going to be enough for the traffic flow in and out?
We do.
That was my question.
Based on traffic studies that we have conducted with there's a loaded question there, right? Without opening what we call the proverbial back door of Island Village.
Right, that's what I was going to say. If there's not another way in or out, that doesn't seem like it's
For the amount of traffic that we're showing, if we open the back door, it would actually increase traffic because you would get you get cut through traffic potentially coming from I know it's Polk County, but I think the line's right there. Yes. You had a question.
Yeah. Is there any structural significance to the trusses and everything, or is it just decorative?
That's a great question, and I can answer that right now. There is no structural significance to the structure. It is aesthetic only. However, it is at least able to hold itself up. But it is not holding the bridge up. The bridge in and of itself doesn't need the truss. Yes, anybody? I saw a couple of hands over here. No more? What,
Oh, sorry.
Just something that he mentioned briefly in passing. Is this development going to be entirely in Osceola County, or is it going to be half and half in Polk County?
This development is entirely in Osceola County, Florida. There is no property that I'm aware of that is outside of Full Island Village, that is outside of Osceola County. Yes, sir.
Regarding the bridge, earlier you used the word hopefully with respect to approval. When do you expect approval for the bridge?
Our first submittal to Osceola County, our first formal submittal to Osceola County will probably be, likely very much be this month. Now, y'all probably thinking, what's this crazy guy talking about me, not me, right? He's talking in probablys and maybes and what. I've learned in this business that you never, 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 never want to talk in absolutes, except right there. That is correct. It is a 4-lane road that comes into Celebration. Yes.
I'm struggling with seeing how a 2-lane is going to go from 4 lanes down to just 2 lanes. I mean, I'm struggling with how that's going to the high school, seeing how that's going to work.
Right. I could guess a little bit, and I'm going to put my neck out there just a little bit, even though I'm on camera here, but Katie looks like she's blocking it, so awesome.
Sorry.
The traffic supports, or the traffic study, let me say that. The traffic study doesn't necessarily warrant the 4 lanes to begin with, especially as, if we are able to keep the back door closed and having cut through traffic from Osceola Polk county line there.
Hey, Bennett, can you back up for a second and explain what happened? Not literally. Can you back up and explain what the approval process looks like for the amount of agencies that are involved and so on and so forth, which is kind of an explanation behind the probablys and the maybes versus the absolutes?
Yes, I could do that. So part of the process, obviously, we have to engineer and come up with the idea. And then we've got to start floating that idea out to the Celebration Company. And then from there, we need to talk to the Osceola County staff, engineering staff, public works staff, all sorts of folks over there at Osceola County. Not to mention their structural and their, I don't know if they have a bridge group or whatever. But ultimately, we need to submit plans to Osceola County. Parallel, we are talking with Reedy Creek Improvement District. Ultimately, our plans will go from through them to the South Florida Water Management District for approval there as it relates to any impacts that we are proposing to the wetland.
I got this one first, and I'll grab you.
Yeah, this backdoor business is pretty important, I think.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like you've spent a lot of time around here, but every day, virtually 7 days a week, from probably 2:30 or 3 o'clock on, there's a line of traffic all the way from Reunion or Champions Gate, sometimes back to 192. The infrastructure is totally inefficient and insufficient to accommodate the amount of development. If you open up a back door, you're going to have a line of traffic running through that community and through our community that's going to be unbelievable. Because they need better roads, they need additional arterials, the floor needs to be improved. I mean, it's a nightmare.
Right. Understood.
So, I presume you're aware of all that, but I don't know what kind of pressures you're going to be under or are already under to have a back door, because I can remember before we bought in Celebration, and that's about 15 years ago, Reunion was talking about, we need a private road out to Disney, just like you guys or the people at Celebration have. I mean, it's a long-held desire, and you could become become under a lot of pressure for something like that. So I think that's an issue that's really got to be locked down hard.
Yes, sir, I understand that. Our PD approval, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, our PD approval does not require a back door. We don't want a back door because it does open up traffic to be undesirable.
Hey.
Correct. And we're on the same page about that. We don't want that.
Are there any of the designs being considered for the aesthetics of the bridge? I can say I'm not really in love with it. Is there I mean, somebody architecturally look at that and better aesthetics for them?
I'm going to pass this one to Keith here.
Yeah, we did go round and round with Celebration Company and LRK, the town architect, on the bridge design. We fought hard for a iconic element along the bridge and ultimately settled on the bridge structure we have here. We try to keep every design element and every design theme that is currently in Celebration when designing that bridge element.
Can you flip back a couple of slides too, also, if you don't mind? Right there, right there. No, the icons. It's an arguable statement, right? One opinion from one is it can be different from another. There's no correct answer to that. I'll be honest, when I first saw the the Bank of America tower, this is years ago when I brought the kids here. I'm a resident here of Central Florida. Keith is a longtime resident here of Central Florida. Katie, how long have you been in Central Florida?
18 years.
Okay, so we're all, been here a while, so, Celebration has been a place that we've visited at one point or another. When I first saw that building, and I'm an engineer too, right? As part of, what I do, or what I've done. When I first looked at that building, I thought, wow, that is a very strange looking building, and, not to say that over time it hasn't grown on me, but it's an opinion, I suppose, right? Some people like the bridge, I forgot to mention, if you haven't seen it, there's a scale model of it over here. If you want to come by, it's not a cake, so don't try to eat it. But take a look at it, look at it a little bit closer, I don't know how else to answer that, except noted. Thank you. One more, two more, three more. Okay, this is a good topic then.
Is there going to be a traffic light at the new bridge and Celebration Boulevard to allow the traffic in and out since it's only 2 lanes?
Out of the high school?
No, coming out of Island Village.
Island Village.
Celebration Boulevard, you get from Celebration Boulevard across it onto Island Village. Somebody's got to let me out if it's only 2 roads. Like on the corner of Waterside and Celebration Boulevard. It's a 4-way stop. You're now going to have
Waterside.
all coming out to go to school.
Can you?
Right away once you build the bridge.
Can you show there you go. Waterside over here?
Right there, right now, that's the problem, getting in and out, 4-way, right? You're contending that you're going to build a bridge, and now I have to come off that road and get off the Celebration Boulevard.
We're on the other side of World Drive.
Who's going to let me back out onto Celebration Boulevard once I come off the bridge?
Right, we'll be, if you live up here, the only reason why you're coming down to Island Village is to visit Island Village. Or to drop off or pick up kids at the high school. Yes. That is not, that is a true statement, yes. It'll be busier.
Sometimes when the school is let out, sometimes it's hard to get across the boulevard already.
Right.
So with another how many thousand cars on there, how are we ever going to get across?
Right. So
I can see your point.
I will share with you an unfortunate reality that is Americana as well as Central Florida. when school lets out, it's crazy. It's crazy where we live, where I live. It's just yes, yes, yes. Right. So we are proposing, if you can go forward a couple of slides, I believe. Yep, there it is. So this is at the high school, a traffic circle at the high school. Traffic circle to be built by others, presumably this development here, this commercial development here. But then again, that's World Drive. And as I got to look at the traffic studies a little bit closer. How does that work? How does that load the road? We don't believe that the road breaks with our load. We do know that if the back door opens, the road from here to World Drive does cause problems. But beyond World Drive, traffic is dissipating north and up World Drive and whatnot.
I just think the nearest supermarket would probably be Publix tomorrow. Do you have supermarkets there?
We will not have supermarkets per se in Island Village, no. Right. Another comment. Sure. You know, there's a line behind you. You just cut in front of them.
I think a lot of the issue associated with, do we need a stoplight or a stop sign at Waterside? I mean, it's getting harder and harder coming from any of the main village, East Village, anything going out to the boulevard is difficult. Becoming more difficult. As the community grows with your addition, it's going to become even more difficult because some of those cars are going to take the boulevard all the way up to the Publix or 192 or wherever they may be going. I don't think you guys are responsible for putting in traffic controls at every intersection in Celebration because of the addition you're making. I'm not suggesting that. Would you please raise that issue with the authorities that you're negotiating with and saying the community is saying we need to pay attention to this? It's, we don't want to have 6 accidents and then put in a stoplight. We want to have the proper signalization before we have those accidents.
Those are great comments. We're taking note of those. We could think about it more and study it more with our traffic engineers as well as with the county and all that. With great technical questions, great concerns. Believe me, we have the same concerns too, right? Not just we share your concern, right? Because that's one day maybe I buy a house down here, right, in Island Village, and how do I get to Publix, right? Let alone our residents as well. So yes, few more. Got another topic. We haven't even talked about Island Village yet. You guys realize that, right? We just talked about Mattamy. Yeah, we talked about Mattamy Homes. We talked about Celebration itself. We talked about the road. We didn't talk about Island Village.
I'm here to talk about roads.
Yes, sir. Oh, boy.
Okay, 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
One, who made the decision that the extension of Celebration Boulevard past the high school is a 2-lane road? That's one question. And the other question is, given the amount of interest that I sense from my fellow residents, it would be helpful to know when you're going to the Osceola County Board or whoever the approval people are so that we can voice our opinions as well and find out what's going on. Okay, question number 1.
Question number 1.
Who made the decision?
Who made the decision on the 2-lane versus 4-lane?
Right.
We negotiated that with Osceola County. They wanted more lanes than we were prepared to offer. Yes, sir.
And then also, a 2-lane road section is the appropriate road section for the amount of traffic coming through that community. Also makes it feel like part of the community, just like Celebration Avenue coming into the main village of Celebration.
Second question. That was a two-parter. That was a two-parter, right?
Yeah. And the other one was,
the approval process.
Is there a way that you can inform those of us in the community about when this is coming up so we can express this to the people at the county level?
Yes, we will definitely be letting Steve Waring know about that. We, as you can see, we're here in front of you not because Osceola said you need to go out in front of these folks, right? We knew that this was going to be a process, and we wanted to embrace that process. So we're not, unlike other developers, we wanted to come out and get out in front of that because of comments like that, so we could address them early enough in the process to where we're not necessarily going sideways with our schedule and all that. Ooh, there's a segue right there. No more questions.
Okay. But
One more. This is it. One more question in the back. It's got to be in the back.
Okay.
Well, the folks at home better be able to hear you.
Oh, that's a good point. If you don't mind, let me jog it back here just because the recording's sometimes.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to the bridge. So
Go on the bridge.
Yeah.
Go on the bridge. We have left.
I think the bridge is a really good idea when it comes to having another structure like the water tower or the windmill, having it in your new section.
Thank you.
Kind of, yeah. But that being said, when you look at the water tower or the windmill, they're like a lot of what Disney does. They're more real than reality itself. They looked at the best water towers, the best windmill, the best whatever, and created this version that is like super, super, right? When I look at your bridge, I don't feel that yet. If that scale model would have been like, the bridges you see up north, the covered bridges where you go underneath some, it's like a house on a bridge and you go underneath, something like that. What we need is like like I said, better than reality itself, the best bridge in the whole country, and then you make something out of it. We do not need a modern version of Celebration. Celebration needs to stay this unique, better than reality itself thing. We don't need a modern version of Celebration. That's just what I wanted to say.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so really, are you sure?
One way in and a one way out. What if there's an accident? You're going to be tying up an entry going in or an entry going out. What are you going to do if a car needs to go on the side of the road? You'll have no shoulder.
No different than Celebration Avenue, right? There's
because they know there's so many people coming out. And yesterday there was an accident right at Publix, and we couldn't get in or out of the community because of the space that the fire truck and ambulances needed. Okay, and so that's some of the consideration is when the emergency vehicles get to that bridge, how do they get in and out? That ambulance had to back up 5 times to be able to turn around.
Yes, we are going round and round with that exact type of question. How wide do you want to build America, right? We're already pushing an extra wide 2-lane section here, 15 foot each, 30 foot wide, 32 foot wide over the bridge, which was satisfactory for the fire marshal at Osceola County. He's not completely happy. He wants 4 lanes, right? Everybody wants 4 lanes, but it's a different, from a traffic standpoint, right? But it doesn't necessarily fit in with what we think is the character that we're trying to present here for Island Village. Okay, next topic. We are moving on. Sorry, questions for that topic at the end. We're certainly able and willing to entertain all those questions. But I presume everybody still wants to stay on schedule and wants to eat tonight, so we're going to keep moving.
Well, and I think it's a great opportunity. Clearly, there's a lot of concern over this issue, and it probably makes sense that we bring back in for everyone to address the questions, the true experts, in addition to ourselves.
Yes.
So it could be the next topic of conversation.
Yes.
We're going back, so.
Oh, where am I? Okay. So timing, real quick on that, on this particular issue. We are submitting in front of, to answer your second question, we are submitting in front of Osceola County here, hopefully this month. From there, how many rounds of comments do they have? Is there a public hearing? All sorts of things like that. We'll definitely communicate to through Steve out to the website. It'll probably hit the Friday Flash and all that good stuff. We definitely, whatever public process that we have to go through, you will be informed of, so that you have an opportunity to voice your concerns, or hopefully voice your support. Right? Just because you don't show up, you like the thing, don't not show up. Come out and support us. We're a neighbor. We hope. We want to be a neighbor with you guys. So please support us as a neighbor. If it's good or if it's not good, we're certainly not afraid of some critical thought and opinions. Otherwise, okay? Is that fair enough? So are we ready to talk a little bit about Island Village? A little bit. Okay. So this one, I'm going to caveat right now. Okay. One, we're not necessarily short on time. We could go all night. We love this stuff. We love talking about this stuff. But out of respect for your time, we can't. Secondly, we're not out of the gates 100% with Island Village itself. We're not in front of the Celebration Company. We're still mowing it around ourselves internally of what Island Village is going to be. We are progressing through the process. We've gone from planning now to having our engineers look at the plans and start really truthing what the geometry of all that is. But this particular section doesn't have as much detail as you would like at this point because we're just not there yet. This is a journey of, 1,000 steps, right? And we're probably on step 7 as it relates to all of Island Village, right? First few steps were related to the road and the bridge. And we have some more steps to take there. We may have to take a few steps backwards and rethink some things. But for Island Village itself, we're not quite there yet, but we wanted to get in front of you just to let you know, because we don't know what the rumors are out there. We don't have access to back porch, right? Or front porch, for that matter. I mean, I'm working with Steve. If the residents and the board will allow us, we'd like to see some of this video of the Corolla meetings. Yes, we're in the early stage, not necessarily early stages, but we are in a stage right now where we're not quite ready to reveal, even to a Celebration Company, what it is that we have for Island Village. However, I can share with you where we are thinking.
Maybe.
Skip the slide. Hang on. Okay. So to understand what we got to do with Island Village, we got to understand Celebration Village as well, right? As you recall, earlier in our presentation, Island Village is entitled for over 1,300 units, 300 of which will be apartments, 1,000 or so will be single family, but also K through 5 elementary school, a 30,000 square feet of commercial, whatever that might be, as well as two amenity sites actually. A lot of all of that, not the second amenity site, but everything that I said before that, our first phase with single family is about 300. All the apartments will be in our first phase. The school will be in our first phase. The town center, or we don't know what we're calling it yet, but or we'd probably love to hear what you would want us to call it, or you would want to call it. But the village center, that's going to come online in the first phase, not in subsequent phases. It's coming online right away. The phases 2 through 4, a majority of that is going to be residential, maybe 1 or 2 other type of amenity spaces. That includes, amenity and civic type spaces. But to understand what we're looking at here, if you look at the left side, this is Celebration Village. You can see our first phase is highlighted or outlined in this red dashed line here. Kind of gives you an understanding, a little bit of a scale of how big is our first phase compared to to Celebration Village, and it is not that big. It is smaller. We are Island Village is a subset of Celebration, right? Just like Artisan Park is, just like North Village is, just like Spring Park. We are a subset of the umbrella that is Celebration. Having said that, if you look over here on the right, what we're trying to do is not necessarily copy verbatim, plagiarize, but we are carrying on themes, a variation of a theme of what is downtown Celebration to an appropriate scale that would be suitable for 1,300 units plus, right? And I say plus, our conversation with everybody, Celebration Company, CROA, everybody, is that our amenities are part of Celebration. It's not separate. It's not for Island Village alone, unless you guys want us to be alone. But we want to share into the amenities, just like Artisan Park is Wrong one. The one you picked. My apologies for that little faux pas, but like say North Village shares in the amenities that is a part of Celebration, as well as the amenities and parks that are over there in North Village, right? So our intent, right, with Island Village is that we share with the residents and vice versa, right? And we want to bring that village center, which includes the commercial, which includes the amenity, up front. Not only for, someone raised that concern over here. We want that. Believe it or not, we sell homes better when we have an actual amenity, right? So we want to bring the amenity online soon for that. For if a selfish reason is out there, that's one of them, right? But definitely for the benefit of the rest of the community. So that's the scale of Island Village as it compares to Celebration Village. As we mentioned earlier, Island Village also has 3 subsequent phases behind it, phase 2, 3, and 4. Okay? But this is our first phase here, which contains really all the common elements that we already see in Celebration Village with the village core. Go ahead, did you?
And there's a couple other design elements that, same thing Katie mentioned earlier, where all the ponds are gifts to the community. They're not homes backing to it all the way around. It's single-loaded streets fronting all the ponds, central green spaces, also connected with greenways through the community design, the neighborhood design. And then the school at the front of the community with the park spaces up front to kind of have that visual buffer, but then also bringing the school traffic off the road, off the main drag, as soon as we can to pull that traffic away from the main Celebration Boulevard going through the community. The village core and the village center we created in the middle of the plan is to create a small town center, to just create a little center of gravity for the overall community. A meeting place, that's where some of the amenity facilities will be, that's where neighborhood commercial will be, that's where part of the model park and part of all of the collective gathering spaces for the first phase of the community are all right there to create that center of gravity. Multifamily tracks, you'll see kind of mimic the same way as Main Village and Celebration. And then also pond spaces, backing to the wetlands with the nice vistas across the ponds and onto the preserve area. So it's just some of the design elements of the plan itself. Also coming down the boulevard, the entry boulevard, that's our decompression zone, just like Celebration Avenue. But then also it's not homes and apartments right the first thing you see. It's building up in density as you get to the village core, just like any other small town you come across. It's the agricultural type areas up front and the open spaces, and then it's building in density until you get to downtown. So that's just a little bit of the elements of the plan itself.
Go ahead and flip the slide here. So these are just imagery. These are not what exactly what we are doing. These are just inspirational images that our land planner, our architects are using to develop what phase 1 will look like, for what Island Village will look like. As you can see here, we're looking at many benchmarks around the country, as well as a celebration of what that density, high density, is going to look like. A little bit more of how are we going to tie together the sense of community that is one of the cornerstones here, right? How do we do that with this space that we're creating here? Amenity ponds, or not amenity ponds, amenity pools, clubhouse. We're planning on, we have two approved sites, or not approved sites, but entitlements for amenity center, whatever that may be. Again, these are just inspirational type images, and we're looking at how do we do that? How do we develop that? How do we develop it as well as, from a use not just for the 1,300 residents or homes that will be there, but also for the rest of Celebration to use as well. Sense of place here. In the future, in the previous slides, a sense of place as it relates to architecture and all that good stuff. How do we make it interesting? How do we make it, celebration? This is a slide of the multifamily precedents that we see here, not just in Celebration. I think one of those slides is for Baldwin Park in Orlando. How did they do their multifamily? What did they do with parking? Where is that all? How does that all fit together in the land plan? Can you see the architecture up front rather than a sea of Walmart parking lot type of thing? And the answer is we don't want to do that. We want to have our buildings be the characters of this story, not necessarily the asphalt where the cars are parked. As I mentioned earlier, related to teamwork, we're working with this is just some of them. It's not all of it. These are all the people that we've got, organizations that we've got to deal with. Starting with the Celebration Company, as well as Osceola County Schools, Osceola County government itself, Reedy Creek. We got to deal with. There's a lot of acronyms there, and I think I'm leaving CCAMC out. Out of the CROA and the Kanoa, is that how you pronounce it? Sinoa, Kanoa, the CJC. All those things that CCMC and Steve and his gang help manage for everybody here, as well as the CCDs, or the CDDs, both Celebration CDD as well and Enterprise CDD for utilities on the enterprise side, and the roadway landscaping type things over there for the Celebration CDD. Of course, there's us in there. We're talking right now with a partner for the multifamily. Haven't yet announced that yet. And these are just a handful of our early consultants. We're going to have more consultants behind this as it relates to the homes, but these are consultants for the land planning, for the land engineering, land use, working with LRK related, the town architect, to make sure that we're on a good plan and a good path going forward with our land plan, as well as they'll be looking at our architecture too, and saying yay or nay to the types of ideas that our own architects will be throwing at them. Okay. So wow, look at all the hands going up for those of you at home. Can we promise to do about 5 or 6 minutes of live type of questions? And then afterwards, we are available if you want to have more discussion. But yes. Yes, sir.
To what extent, if any, will our existing pattern book dictate the architectural designs that you come up with?
That's a great question. I think Keith is probably best to answer that one.
So we're going through additions to the pattern book. A lot of the craftsman styles that are present today weren't a part of the pattern book, so we're making sure to add all of what's been done in the community to the pattern book. So there will be a refresh in the pattern book, but That's all going through town architect, LRK. They will, review everything, every individual plan, every individual elevation, just like they currently do for everyone.
And so then generally rear-facing garages would be?
Yeah, so in the center of all the plan, it'll be all alley-loaded garages, and then around the outside, around the wetlands, there might be some front-loaded just because of site constraints, but it'll be the same streetscape, it'll be the same feel, look as Celebration. That's kind of the big, what we're trying to provide tonight is we're keeping the same design themes, the same cornerstones that Celebration, what makes Celebration what it is.
Yes, sir.
My wife's complaining here. She wants to go home. But first of all, I want to thank and congratulate you for coming here at this point in the development of this, because a lot of things haven't been done yet. You could have come in and said, here it is, it's all finished. So thank you for that. Now, having said that,
But
when this town was developed, my suspicion is that the developers didn't anticipate how many tourists would be attracted to the downtown area of Celebration. So when we first moved here, the people I saw at events downtown, concerts and so on, were my fellow residents. Now I go down when I do photography of these events, I hardly see anybody from Celebration, but it's packed with people from outside. Now, we can't keep them out, and I'm not saying we should, but with respect to your own town center area, you should be prepared that it's not going to just be residents. You're going to start attracting a lot of people depending upon what you're doing there. And I guess this is kind of a backdoor comment about the road as well and the adequacy of the road. And if I get a chance to express my opinion, that's one thing I'm going to bring up. And I would say that for all of you, the three of you, if you haven't been to a downtown event concert, come and see what it's really like. What it's really like. Or 4th of July or all these other things.
Or helicopter.
Great comments. Appreciate the compliment ahead of time or prior to that. But yes, it's the good and the bad, right? We do have a commercial use, just like downtown Celebration has a commercial use that is dependent for its life on not just Celebration but outside people to come in. That's good that they're viable. It's bad that it has to come in from the outside. We're looking at how I just recently saw a plan. I can't tell you what it is, right? Recently saw a plan come in front of me and Keith, last week, and I'm going, wow, this is quite exciting. Where are they going to park? Yes, some of the successes of Celebration are also, on one hand, a complaint of the residents as well.
Yeah,
so.
And from our focus groups, I mean, parking is top of mind. That was one of the words on that word cloud there. We're taking that into account. We're doing the best we can with, when we plan out all our spaces. Thank you. And then if we could get everyone's first name when you ask a question, just so we can get to know you guys a little better.
Hi, my name is Brian. See, I think when you're hearing parking, you're not hearing parking in Island Village. You're hearing parking for downtown center events and stuff like that. And when you throw in an extra 500 or 1,000 automobiles maybe going downtown, you're going to hear a lot of concern. And I really think you ought to expand your definition of parking.
Yeah, Mike. And I'm the world's worst at math, so let me kind of see if I was following you. First phase, all of the multifamily is going to be there. So 100% of multifamily will be in phase 1.
Yes, approximately 300.
All of the commercial will be in phase 1.
30,000 square feet.
Correct. What's the percentage of single-family homes that will be available in phase 1, since it sounds like the following phases will be where the single-family homes come?
Yes, that's an easy one.
Okay.
Okay, so about 300 single-family in phase 1. So if my math is correct, just looking at the single-family, multifamily, it's about 50%. 50%, so 300 300 single-family, not accounting for the square footage of the commercial, not accounting for the acreage that's going to be consumed by the K through 5 school.
Okay.
But yeah, for residences, about 50-50 in the first phase. And subsequently, no more entitlements available for multifamily.
Hello, Gary. In your development, how much of your single-family homes are anticipated to be zero lot line built?
What's your definition of zero lot line?
Spring Lake.
So Spring Lake has 0 minus lot line, so we're the typical celebration setbacks. That's what we're trying to keep with the community.
I'm not sure your typical is our definition of typical, and what I'm recommending to you, after our experience in Spring Lake, do not build zero lot line single-family homes, because you not only have issues with personnel that are not happy between the space between homes, but we have serious drainage issues. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, we're acutely aware of that, and yeah. Who's next? Anyone else in this area?
We got to spread the love over to the left side of the
in the hat.
Stage right, stage left, stage left.
Hi, I'm Corbin. With this particular development, will you be selling any of the lots to other builders, such as the custom builders, or will you build all the single-family houses yourself?
That is a great question. Keith can answer that. Part of the answer there is we're selfish as a company. We don't want to do that. Having said that,
but I've got a different answer.
Excellent.
We know what we're good at, and we're good at what we do. So that's why we're selling the multifamily tract to a multifamily developer that's great at what they do and thinks the same way we do. Same thing with the custom lots. We will bring in most likely a custom builder program to develop those houses, because that's not what we do. We don't do million-plus houses. We'd love to, but that's just, there are other folks that specialize in that. Thank you.
Hi, Suzanne. Has any consideration been given to possibly putting in a smaller fire department or emergency services in this area to kind of prevent the issues that are concerning several residents?
And since we're not the provider of those services, it's kind of impossible for us to do. But that's a good point, and we'll try to bring that up to the fire marshal.
I'm just wondering, in the 30,000 acre or whatever it is, the square footage or whatever, has any consideration been given to a small fire department, emergency services in that area?
And that the ongoing expense of fire services is borne by the county, and I don't think they would do anything of the sort. They might bring in different apparatus for different community types, but I don't think they'd put another fire station in just for that.
Erica, and I just wanted to know if you have any consideration on having covered back areas, because we live in Florida, it's so hot, and if you see the new developments, they have like this little area in the back where you can grill and be away from the heat.
So the great part about the focus groups that we did initially, all of that type of feedback was given to us. Master bedrooms on the first floor, all of that. I'm sure, other people are nodding their head. I mean, once we do product design, we send it back to the customer, because we serve the customer. We don't control the customer, right? So everyone that comes in that gives us a check for a house, they did it for a reason. And so we like to provide them exactly what they want and what they need. So that is also one of those that we take a part of.
Jim, is there any plan for who's going to own the commercial space?
So the commercial space, it won't be run the same way that the current downtown is. I'll leave it at that. Anyone over here? Is there any more there?
Anybody else? Can we conclude for now? It's just one more over. Two. Go ahead over there. Over there.
You're good. Who's next? Sorry. Keep the hands up.
Over here?
All right, here, then over there.
Name's Al. One quick question. I saw your lakes. You got enough fill to use from those sites, or are you going to have to bring in fill from outside your area?
We're analyzing that now. Obviously, bringing off-site dirt is a very expensive type of venture. Having said that, we're still analyzing at least through our first phase to see if we can balance the dirt for both sides, for both Phase 1 and for the road. One of our biggest challenges is how do you bring dirt from one side of the creek before the bridge is built. So having said that, we may be stuck in a position where either we wait for the bridge to be built or we are importing that dirt. Depends on how we strategize our schedule. But we definitely want to minimize an import or export of dirt, just from an efficiency standpoint. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Scarlett. Can you give us a glimpse of what you're envisioning, to use your word, floor plans, size homes, town, anything like that?
I personally couldn't.
And really and truly, pen hasn't been put to paper yet. We have design charrettes that we do when we design any new product. You know, it's a lengthy process, and especially with the review and approval by town architect and celebration company, but pen hasn't been put to paper yet on all that. We've collected a lot of focus group data to map out exactly what residents want, future and present residents, and then that's all being brought through the charrette process.
We certainly want to hit a target correctly in the intended market out there.
All right.
One more. Did we hear from you already? Okay, one more.
Is that it?
Or do you want to, okay.
No traffic or parking, right? Oh.
And probably everybody you think I'm a nut for bringing this up, but there are a lot of stories floating around about alligators being moved to that area when they were developing Disney and so forth. Whether that happened or not, there's got to be a lot of wildlife out there, including gators and snakes and so forth. And when you start disrupting that area, is there a way that you manage that? I mean, I had a guy put a swimming pool in across the street from me, and I had snakes in my backyard that summer. And I'm sure that was the only reason, because no, that was right down here. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of activity, a lot of disruption, and I don't know if that needs to be managed in a way, a relocation of some of the animals, or how that goes, but you might want to put that into your visioning program.
Sure, thank you. Yes, we are looking at species that are threatened and endangered, but to extend it further than that, we appreciate that comment. We don't necessarily want to create a nuisance per se, as our homes are being built, but we also know that that's part of the process and something that, if it's a concern for a customer, a buyer, then why should it not be a concern of Mattamy? Okay, so folks, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We will be back soon. We don't know when. It won't be a year, it won't be 6 months, it'll be soon, but we just don't have the idea yet of when that would be. But again, thank you very much for coming out. Appreciate it. We're sticking around for additional questions if you have any. Thank you.